From Fox 8, this is breaking news.
Good evening, I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Meg Gatto. We begin with breaking news tonight. The Office of Inspector General calls on the New Orleans City Council to re-examine the ordinance that establishes how the mayor uses the French Quarter Upper Pontalba apartment.
This comes after our investigation showed the mayor appeared to violate the current rules for use of the Upper Pontalba apartment. Lauren McCoy has more.
Yeah, Lee and Meg, today the Inspector General sent a letter to the council saying because the apartment doesn't bring in rent, the personal usage by the mayor gives the appearance of a donation of public property, which is impossible violation of the Louisiana Constitution. Lee Zurich's investigation this week shows that Mayor Cantrell and several guests spent the night in the Pontalba apartment over Essence Fest weekend. The ordinance that city council members passed in April prohibited overnight stays. Now the OIG is recommending the city relinquish the apartment to the French Market Corporation to collect fair market value rent from the public, and the OIG estimates that would bring in $36,000 to the city. And today, Councilmember J.P. Morrell told us he plans to reintroduce the ordinance next week because when it originally passed in April, it was a gutted version of what Morrell first presented. Bottom line, he wants to eliminate the option for the mayor to use the apartment.
I stated when those amendments were passed, they inherently had loopholes. We did not define what a overnight stay was. We didn't define what periodic use was. And I do think the mayor staying there over Essence was very disrespectful to the public who is frustrated with what the city's doing. And I do think it was an intentional slight at the council. But to be clear, the council invited it by gutting the original ordinance.
Morrell says the city charter does not provide for a mayor of the city of New Orleans to have a residence. The council expects to vote on the reworked ordinance August 10th. Lee?